pathetic as you are, I would have killed myself ages ago. You should get on with it.
I'm not one that's really picky when it comes to watching movies. I've been watching movies obsessively pretty much my entire life. I mean, I'll watch pretty much anything. I've always thought I've had a rather strange taste in films until my redheaded devil wife made me watch some of her favorite films. A weird collection of horror and comedy that makes me question her sanity. This is Weird Movies My Wife Makes Me Watch. The Craft from 1996 feels like a movie produced by Hot Topic to sell to teenage girls who are different. The film starts with a seance led by Bobby Boucher's girlfriend.
That woman is a devil, and I want you to stay away from her, you hear me? Yes, Mom. Now you come on inside for that little witch casts a spell on us.
Oh yes, nothing like opening credits set to grunge music to perfectly date a film. We meet Sarah, who's a new girl, and her parents move into this new decrepit house leaking more than Cardi B. The hash-slinging slasher shows up at Sarah's door holding a garter snake and she's terrified of it. I mean, come on, it's like the least dangerous snake of all time. You're not really going to handle this witch stuff very well if a garter snake gets under your skin. Oh, poor thing. We cut to Sarah starting her first day of school with some more grunge. There's some witches at the Catholic school.
What a twist!
I love how Vicky Valancourt stands out so much just because of her black hair and George Michael earrings. I also love how she just has a random black noose in her locker. We go to French class where we see one part of Robot Chicken talking with the teacher about getting laid, which seems pretty inappropriate for a school setting. Then Sarah speaks up in perfect French, and then Road Trip calls her Snail Trail, which is honestly the funniest part of the film hands down, because get it, they're in French class and they eat snails.
Wet ass pussy.
This is when the shy witch takes notice of Sarah as Sarah perfectly balances a pencil. Sarah walks up to the brood and asks to sit with them when Vicky gives her a death stare. Chris decides to try to be slick and talk to Sarah. Chris explains to Sarah that those girls are the bitches of Eastwick and they're witches and sluts, because you gotta throw that in there too apparently. Sarah goes to watch Chris at football practice with more grunge music. Take a shot every time grunge is played. Actually don't, because you will die. The witches approach Sarah to apologize for earlier and ask to go get coffee and warn her that Chris goes after anything with tits and will give her an itch. They see a scar on Sarah's wrist and she explains she slit her wrist with a kitchen knife.
You even did it the right way. Punk rock, let's go.
The brood goes into this witch hippie store that probably smells something fierce with all those candles lit. The woman at the store gives her a copy of the movie to learn how to use candles. Later on, Sarah's walking down the street when she runs back into the hash-slinging slasher with another harmless snake to tell her that in his dreams she was dead. Dude, look both ways before you cross.
Listen to me!
The witches all think they made the car hit him because they are all thinking it, so they believe they now have witchy powers since Sarah joined them. Vicky starts to explain to Sarah what Manon is, basically the being they worship.
It's like you take him into you. It's like he fills you. He takes everything that's gone wrong in your life and he makes it all better again.
And that's what I call high-quality H2O.
Sarah's now hanging out with Chris on a rooftop. Chris tries to get Sarah to go back to his house for some Nirvana and chill, when she says she needs to go home. The next day at school, the brood tells her that Chris was going around the school saying she was the worst lay ever. Sarah confronts him when Chris just kind of acts like a dick, and Rochelle has to deal with some racism from Karen in the locker room while Bonnie is at the doctor's for her burn scars. Vicky heads to her broken home with a drunk mom and a lazing around dad as they begin to argue. The next day, we get the t-shirt line.
Girls, watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
The girls then spend the afternoon doing some witchcraft in the woods. The spells they cast must be working because Chris is acting obsessively over Sarah. Sarah then kind of treats him like a mindless slave, and it's pretty funny. Then they play light as a feather, stiff as a board, and they float Rochelle for real. The spell they put on racist Karen starts to work, and Bonnie's scars begin to heal. The girls are talking about how their spells are working for them while Vicky gets jealous because nothing's really working for her. At home, her stepdad says something pervy to her. When him and his mom get into a fight, Vicky's rage starts a fire and causes her dad to have a heart attack, which leads to her and her mom getting almost $200,000 in life insurance. Damn, that's a hell of a policy. Chris shows up at Sarah's house at 3 in the morning. This is kind of the first moment we see that the spells are starting to backfire, as the spell is completely controlling his mind. The girls go back to Witches R Us, as the woman tells them that whatever they send out, they get back threefold. Vicky buys a book that the woman tells her you must be experienced, but buys it anyway, and the brood heads off to the beach to do some more witch stuff. This time they start summoning some real power. The girls wake up next morning after Vicky was struck by some thunder and lightning to see her walking on the water. While also on the beach, they notice a bunch of dead sharks. Now Sarah's starting to have some second thoughts on what they are doing, maybe thinking they are going too far. The next day, Rochelle sees racist Karen losing all of her hair, and Rochelle starts to feel bad for her actions. She looks at herself in the mirror and her reflection looks away. She can't even bear to stand to look at herself after what she caused. Honestly, that's kind of my favorite part of the movie. It's just a nice little subtle moment that's done really well. Sarah goes out with Chris after he begs. Chris begins to be aggressive so he can finally have her and tries to rape her. Vicky goes to find Chris to confront him. She transforms into Sarah so she can hook up with Chris because Chris rejects her as herself. The brood shows up to the party to try to find Vicky when Sarah walks in on Vicky and Chris making out. When Vicky breaks the news to Chris that Sarah put a spell on him to fall in love with her, Chris tells Vicky that she's just jealous, which sends Vicky over the edge and sends him out the window, killing him. Sarah now places a spell on Vicky to no longer harm people or herself. Sarah then leaves the brood, as the brood then says some pretty spoopy stuff to her. Sarah heads back to the place of overbearing smells, and the witch finally lets her go behind the curtain. There she will unlock her true power. Back at home, Sarah finds out that Vicky killed her parents, crashing their plane flight. Sarah then begins to panic as her house is being filled with snakes, bugs, and rats. Vicky busts in.
If I was as pathetic as you are, I would have killed myself ages ago. You should get on with it.
Sarah realizes that the plane crash was just an illusion and that Vicky's real plan is to get Sarah to kill herself. The brood tries to get Sarah to kill herself, but what they don't realize is that she's actually a level 10 wizard of Gondor. Sarah then makes Rochelle believe that her hair is falling out and that Bonnie's scars are coming back tenfold, or so they believe. It's enough to make them run away in fear. Sarah calls upon the powers of Sarah then begins to mind freak Vicky. Vicky tries to kill Sarah, but normally a slapping fight just doesn't do the trick, but a flying dresser just might. Well, it looks like Sarah went ghost mode and super kicks Vicky into another world. The next morning, Bonnie and Rochelle show up to apologize to Sarah and want to still be her friends, and Sarah basically tells them off. We see that Vicky's in an institution. Cut to the grunge music with a credit scroll, and there you pretty much have The Craft. I think The Craft might have been the first movie Autumn wanted to show me, and the first time watching it, I really wasn't a fan of it. I could see why people would love this film because it has a cult appeal, especially to a teenage alternative audience, but for me it really didn't offer much to make it seem special. On a technical side, the performances are all pretty good here. I mean, it has a rather great 90s cast lineup. The music is decent and very fitting for the time, obviously. Visually though, this film is incredibly flat looking. Yes, they do some cool visual tricks with the magic moments, and I really love the Rochelle mirror scene, but as far as framing and shot composition, it's rather bland and flat, especially when it comes to lighting. But I did enjoy it a lot more the second time around. It's not something I would say I'm in love with, but I didn't find myself as bored or as uninterested this time around. I originally rated the film like a 4 out of 10, but I think I'd bump it to like maybe a 5.5 out of 10. This one might be the most accessible film out of these films I'm going to be talking about in this series. I have quite a bit to go through, so I hope you guys will check them out. I'm sure along the way she's going to show me some weirder movies, so we'll see what we come across.